There's something powerful about living with a little mystery. There's something wise about not putting everything you know, everything you feel, everything you dream about out on display for the whole world to see. You weren't created to be an open book for every person who walks into your life. You weren't designed to hand over every piece of yourself to just anyone who's curious enough to ask. Some things are meant to be kept sacred. Some things are meant to be kept private. And when you learn to live with a little bit of quiet strength, when you learn to keep certain things between you and God, you walk in a wisdom that protects your peace, guards your future, and positions you for greater favor. Too often, we live in a world that pressures us to overshare. Social media says, tell everyone everything. Culture says, if you feel it, say it. But just because you can share it doesn't mean you should. Just because someone is asking questions doesn't mean you owe them answers. Some dreams are too tender to expose. Some battles are too sacred to explain. Some victories are too fresh to broadcast. When you learn the art of keeping things hidden until their appointed time, you give God the space to finish His work in you without the noise of outside opinions trying to interfere. There's something powerful about walking with a quiet confidence, knowing deep down that you don't need everyone's approval to move forward. You don't need everyone to understand the vision God put in your heart. You don't need to explain your every move, defend your every step, or seek validation for the path you're walking. What God is doing in you, He's doing for a reason, and He's doing it in a way that sometimes only you can see. It's not up for a vote. It's not up for public debate. You don't need 10 people clapping for you to know you're called. You don't need 100 likes to know you're favored. When God puts something in you, that's your confirmation. That's your permission. That's your green light. Sometimes we waste too much energy trying to get people to see what we see, feel what we feel, believe in what we're building. But the truth is, not everyone will understand your calling because it wasn't given to them, it was given to you. Not everyone will see the blueprint because God didn't hand it to them, He handed it to you. It's not their responsibility to approve it, and it's not your responsibility to explain it. When you understand that, you stop living for applause and you start living with assurance. You stop needing constant affirmation from people and you start walking with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing who you are and whose you are. There's a reason why some of the most important things God does happen in secret. Think about how a baby grows in the womb. It's hidden, it's protected, it's nourished out of sight. Nobody can see the daily progress, but that doesn't mean the growth isn't happening. That's how God often works in us. He plants something, a dream, a healing, a promise, and it begins to grow under the surface. People may look at you and think nothing's changing, nothing's happening, but that's because they're not seeing what God is doing on the inside. Don't be discouraged when others don't recognize your progress. Don't let it get you down when you're not getting the support you expected. Growth doesn't always announce itself. Transformation doesn't always broadcast its progress. Sometimes the most significant changes happen when no one else is looking. When you move without needing public approval, you move faster, you move freer, you move wiser. You're not weighed down by second guessing every decision. You're not constantly looking over your shoulder wondering who's clapping and who's criticizing. You can step into opportunities with boldness because you know you were assigned, not just approved. You can take risks. You can obey those quiet whispers from God. Because you're not waiting for a crowd to cheer you on. You're walking in the quiet confidence that comes from being led from within. People will often judge your process when they don't understand your purpose. They'll see you stepping out in faith and question your sanity. They'll see you trusting God with your future and wonder why you're not playing it safe. But you have to be willing to let them misunderstand. You have to be willing to let them mislabel you. You have to be willing to let them talk and still stay focused on your assignment. Their misunderstanding doesn't change your mission. Their lack of approval doesn't cancel your anointing. What God is doing in you is bigger than their opinions. It's deeper than their understanding. It's stronger than their critiques. It takes maturity to walk by faith when there's no public recognition. It takes strength to trust the process when nobody's clapping yet. It takes wisdom to know that just because it's silent doesn't mean it's stagnant. God does some of His best work in silence. While you're praying in private, He's preparing something in public. While you're trusting in the unseen, He's setting the stage for the scene. Just because you don't see it yet doesn't mean He's not working. Just because others don't see it doesn't mean you're off course. Your silence is not a setback. Your silence is a strategy. When you're silent, you protect what's sacred. When you're silent, you allow your roots to grow deep. When you're silent, you're giving God the space to finish the work without outside voices interfering. It's easy to think that being vocal equals being powerful. It's easy to believe that if you're not constantly talking about it, you're not moving toward it, but sometimes the opposite is true. Sometimes the greatest power is found in the ones who know how to move in silence. Sometimes the most strategic move you can make is to keep certain things between you and God until the timing is right. When a building is under construction, there are scaffolds and barriers around it. The work is hidden. The workers don't bring tourists in to see the unfinished floors and half-painted walls. They wait until it's complete. They wait until it's ready. Then they take down the barriers and show the masterpiece. That's how your life is. God is building something in you that's not ready for public viewing yet. It's still being shaped. It's still being perfected. If you expose it too early, you might invite criticism that kills your confidence. If you reveal it too soon, you might allow doubt to seep in before the foundation is even finished. There's a divine protection that comes when you stay silent in the right seasons. Silence shields your vision from unnecessary attacks. Silence keeps your heart tender and focused. Silence gives you the space to hear God clearly without the noise of 1,000 opinions clouding your mind. The world may tell you that you have to shout your plans from the rooftops. But wisdom knows that sometimes you have to build in secret so that you can reveal in strength. It's not that you're being secretive, it's that you're being strategic. You're not hiding because you're scared, you're hiding because you're smart. You understand that what God is doing is too important to be handled carelessly. You recognize that there's a weight to the dream, a sacredness to the promise, and it deserves to be treated with honor and care. Not everyone is meant to have access to the early stages of your calling. Not everyone is mature enough to handle the fragile beginnings of your breakthrough. There's wisdom in being selective with your words. There's wisdom in discerning who gets access to your process. Some people can't celebrate you because they're too busy competing with you. Some people can't support you because your courage exposes their fear. It's not personal, it's spiritual. It's not about you, it's about the insecurity in them. Don't waste your breath trying to explain yourself to people who aren't even called to go where you're going. Save your energy for the building. Save your strength for the battle. Save your words for when God tells you, now it's time to reveal. When you move in silence, you also leave less room for the enemy to operate. When you don't announce every move, you don't give him a roadmap to attack. When you keep your plans tucked in prayer instead of plastered on a billboard, you allow God to work behind the scenes, orchestrating things you couldn't even plan if you tried. Silence is not weakness, it's warfare. It's the wisdom to know that not every battle needs to be fought with noise. Some battles are won by trusting, waiting, and moving quietly toward the promise. You are not falling behind just because you're not broadcasting every step. You are not being overlooked just because it feels quiet. God sees you. God knows the seeds you've sown. God knows the sacrifices you've made that nobody else clapped for. And God is faithful to reward what's done in secret. He's faithful to honor what's hidden for His glory. Your time is coming. Your season will break forth. Your harvest will speak louder than your announcements ever could. You don't have to fight for the spotlight. You don't have to push your way into rooms you were never meant to be in. You don't have to convince anyone to believe in you. Walk with the quiet confidence that says, God is my defender. God is my promoter. God is the one opening doors no man can shut. When you live like that, you can move in peace. You can move in freedom. You can move without fear because you know who's really in charge. So keep building when nobody is clapping. Keep praying when nobody is watching. Keep growing when nobody is noticing. Your value is not determined by how many people see it. It's determined by the one who placed it in you. Your significance isn't based on the size of your audience. It's based on the size of your assignment. And God doesn't give small assignments. He doesn't place greatness in you just to have it ignored. In the right time, He will bring the right people, the right platforms, the right opportunities. And when it happens, you'll look back and realize that the silent seasons weren't wasted. They were preparation. They were protection. They were positioning you for something greater than you could have imagined. Trust the process even when it's quiet. Trust the growth even when it's unseen. Trust the promise even when it feels like it's taking longer than you thought. What God is doing in you is too big to be rushed. It's too important to be explained to everybody, and it's too valuable to be exposed before it's ready. Let your silence be your strategy. Let your patience be your power. And let your trust be louder than your words. There's a certain power in knowing when to protect what you hold dear, when to keep certain things close to your heart, and when to let your actions do the talking. It's easy to want to share every detail, to announce every step, to let everyone know about every plan, but there is strength in discretion. Not everything is meant to be on display. Some things are sacred, meant to be cherished and nurtured in private before they are revealed to the world. It's not about being secretive or hiding your progress. It's about honoring the process. You don't need to explain everything to everyone. Sometimes the quiet growth is the most powerful. Sometimes the quietest victories are the most meaningful. There's a reason why certain things in life are meant to stay protected. Just like a seed that's planted in the soil, it doesn't need to be shown to the world immediately. It's not the moment for people to see it, it's the moment for it to grow, to take root, to build its foundation. If you expose it too soon, you risk someone or something damaging its potential before it has even had a chance to take off. When we put too much on display, we often invite unnecessary opinions, criticisms, and distractions. There's a quiet strength in letting things grow in their own time, in their own way, without rushing the process. Think about it. When you're building something important, something with real significance, it doesn't always make sense to show the world every stage of its creation. There's a time for laying the foundation, a time for constructing the framework, and then a time for revealing the finished product. But when it's still in the works, you have to guard it, protect it, and allow it to evolve without outside interference. This is not a sign of weakness or a lack of confidence. It's a sign of wisdom. You understand that some things need space to breathe and develop before they can be unveiled. Many people fall into the trap of sharing their every move, every idea, every breakthrough, as if the validation of others will somehow make it more real. But the truth is, what's real doesn't need constant approval. The things that are truly meant to last don't need to be flaunted for them to have value. In fact, they often gain strength in their quietness. You don't need the loud applause or the spotlight to know that you're headed in the right direction. What's for you is for you, and it doesn't need a public announcement every step of the way. In the same way, you don't need to explain your every move. It's natural to want to let people know what you're doing, to gain their support and encouragement, but not every dream, not every plan, not every step needs to be laid out for the world to see. Some things need to be kept sacred. Some things need to be wrapped in protection until they're fully formed. Just like a treasure that's hidden away until the right moment, your most precious ideas, goals, and projects deserve time and care. You are not obligated to reveal them until the time is right. We often think that if we're not talking about something, if we're not constantly sharing it, then maybe we're not moving forward. But the truth is, action speaks louder than words. You can talk all day long about what you're doing, but it's the results that speak for themselves. It's the finished product that draws attention, not the process. When you're busy focusing on building something with substance, people will notice when the fruit starts to show. It's amazing how your quiet work can speak volumes in the right time. Your results will do the talking for you. There's a beauty in letting your actions shine without needing to explain yourself constantly. Too often we get caught up in wanting to announce things prematurely. We think that by sharing every idea, every plan, every step, we can control the outcome or at least gain the support we want. But sometimes the best thing you can do is keep your plans between you and God and trust that the right opportunities will unfold when the time is right. There's no need to rush. What you're building is valuable and it's worth taking the time to nurture it in private. Trust that God will reveal it to the world when it's fully ready, and when it's ready, no one will be able to deny it. When you move with quiet confidence, you're showing the world that you know who you are and where you're headed. You're not waiting for the approval of others because you're already sure of the path you're on. Your confidence is not built on how many people agree with you, but on the quiet assurance that you're walking in the direction God has set for you. And when you let your results do the talking, you'll find that people will begin to take notice of what you're doing, not because you've been shouting about it, but because they see the impact of your work. There's power in action, power in results, and power in letting the journey speak for itself. When you keep things sacred, when you don't put everything on display, it allows you to remain focused on what really matters. It's easy to get distracted by the noise, to become concerned with what everyone else is doing. But when you're focused on building something solid, you learn that the most important work is the work that's done in silence. The more you focus on your own path, the less you need to worry about how it looks to others. The more you trust God with the process, the less you need to validate your progress to anyone else. Your trust in God's timing and plan will speak louder than any words could. It's important to understand that not everyone will understand your journey. Not everyone will appreciate the work you're putting in behind the scenes. But that's okay. The ones who matter will see the fruit, and the ones who don't will be left wondering how you did it. And when they see the results, they'll understand that you weren't trying to prove anything. You were simply doing the work, trusting that in time, everything would come together as it was meant to. Sometimes we get caught up in wanting recognition, wanting approval, wanting validation, but real peace comes when you realize you don't need all that to feel fulfilled. When you focus on your purpose and trust that God is working behind the scenes, you will find a peace that surpasses the need for applause. You will find joy in the journey, knowing that your value isn't determined by how much you share or how many people agree with you. Your value is inherent because of who God made you to be. There is a time for everything. There's a time to be seen and there's a time to be hidden. There's a time to speak up and there's a time to remain silent. And it's in that silence, in that stillness, that God often works the deepest. He refines, He strengthens, and He prepares you for what's ahead. And when the time comes for your purpose to be revealed, you'll step into it with confidence, knowing that you didn't need to announce it before the right time. You are not obligated to share every part of your journey. You are not required to let everyone in on your plans. When you move in quiet confidence, you create space for God to work without interruption. You allow Him to reveal things in His timing, in His way. Trust that He's doing more than you can see, more than you can control. And when He's ready to reveal the work, the world will take notice. But you'll already know because you've been walking in quiet confidence, knowing all along that God was with you every step of the way. There's something extraordinary about silence, something that many of us fail to recognize. In a world that celebrates noise, activity, and constant chatter, we sometimes forget that silence has its own power, its own voice. It's not about being quiet out of fear or insecurity. It's about understanding that silence carries a strength that words alone can never convey. Silence can be your shield. Silence can be your weapon. Silence can be a reflection of your inner peace, your confidence, and your unwavering faith. When you choose silence, you choose to let your actions, your results, and your character speak for you. You don't need to announce everything you're doing, every move you're making. Your silence will carry more weight than all the noise could ever hope to achieve. Too often we feel the need to explain ourselves, to defend our actions, to clarify our intentions. We feel that if we don't speak up, if we don't share every thought, then people won't understand us. But the truth is, there's power in holding back. There's power in being intentional with your words, in knowing when to speak and when to remain quiet. Sometimes the most profound message you can send is delivered in the spaces between the words, in the pauses that give others time to reflect on what they've seen you do rather than what you've said. In those moments of silence, when the world expects you to react or explain, there's an opportunity to show the world that you're not controlled by external forces. You don't need the approval or validation of others to know that you're on the right path. When you remain silent in the face of criticism or doubt, you send a message that you are unshaken, undeterred, and confident in who you are and where you're going. Your silence becomes a reflection of your inner strength. It says, I know what I'm doing and I don't need to convince you of it. The less you speak, the louder your actions become. There is power in letting your results do the talking. So often we get caught up in trying to justify our decisions to make sure that everyone understands why we're doing what we're doing. But the truth is, your results will speak for themselves. When you focus on doing the right thing, when you give your best effort and trust the process, your success will shine brighter than any explanation could ever do. You don't have to shout from the rooftops. You don't have to convince anyone that you're moving in the right direction. The outcome will make it clear, and when people see the fruits of your labor, they will understand why you remained silent. They'll see that your actions were always louder than any words you could have said. It's also important to understand that your silence is not a sign of weakness. It doesn't mean that you're afraid to speak or that you have nothing to say. It's a sign of wisdom. You understand that some things don't need to be said, and that by holding your tongue, you create space for the right things to unfold. Sometimes when we speak too much, we dilute the power of what we could have said. In the stillness of silence, you allow God to work in ways that are beyond your control. You allow Him to prepare the way for you, and when the time is right, He will reveal what needs to be said and when. There is power in restraint. In a world where everyone seems to be speaking, shouting, or clamoring for attention, choosing silence is a revolutionary act. It's a declaration that you are not bound by the pressures of the world. You are not chasing approval. You are not constantly seeking to be heard. Instead, you are letting your life, your choices, and your actions speak for themselves. There is something deeply transformative about taking a step back, choosing not to engage in every battle or every debate, and instead allowing your presence, your character, and your work to do the talking. In this quietness, you become like the still waters that run deep. There's depth to your silence, and people start to take notice. They may wonder why you're not reacting, why you're not giving in to the noise of the world around you. And it's in that wonder, that curiosity, that people begin to see the true power of your spirit. When you stay centered, calm, and quiet, you not only protect your peace, but you also set an example of strength that others can learn from. Sometimes we can't control the circumstances around us. Life throws challenges at us, and there are moments when we feel like the world is pushing against us. But what if, in those moments, the silence you choose is the very thing that allows you to rise above the chaos? What if, by not reacting, by not engaging in the noise, you preserve your energy and your clarity? This is where true strength lies not in fighting every battle, but in choosing which battles are worth your time and energy. Your silence becomes the foundation from which you can operate with purpose and intention. And that brings us to another important point. Silence is a choice. It's not something that just happens to you. It's something you choose deliberately. In the face of adversity, in the face of misunderstanding, you have the power to decide whether or not you will engage. And when you choose silence, you empower yourself to stay focused on what truly matters. You stop being distracted by every opinion and judgment that comes your way. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself to those who may never understand you. You simply keep moving forward, knowing that your actions will eventually prove the worth of your decisions. The second point is that you are not being punished. You may feel like you're going through something difficult, like you're being held back, or like you're being tested beyond your limits. But what if, instead of seeing it as punishment, you viewed it as pruning? What if the difficulties you're facing are actually a part of God's plan to shape and refine you into the person you are meant to be? When a gardener prunes a plant, it looks like a cutting, a removal of parts that were once thriving. But in reality, that pruning is necessary for the plant to grow even stronger, even more fruitful. The same is true for you. You may feel the weight of pruning in your life, but it's not a punishment, it's preparation. It's a necessary part of your growth. Sometimes we go through seasons where we feel like we're losing things. We lose relationships, opportunities, or parts of ourselves that we thought were essential. But in reality, these are just the things being pruned away to make room for something greater. God is not trying to hurt you. He's not punishing you. He's refining you. He's cutting away the things that are no longer serving your purpose so that you can step into the fullness of your destiny. And while the process may be uncomfortable, it's essential for your growth. It's easy to get discouraged when we feel like we're losing something, but it's important to remember that loss is not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's necessary for something better to come along. Sometimes we have to let go of the old to make way for the new. Just like a tree needs to shed its leaves in the fall to prepare for new growth in the spring, you too need to let go of certain things in your life to allow God to bring something new, something better into your future. It's easy to get discouraged when we feel like we're losing something, but it's important to remember that loss is not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's necessary for something better to come along. Sometimes we have to let go of the old to make way for the new. Just like a tree needs to shed its leaves in the fall to prepare for new growth in the spring, you too need to let go of certain things in your life to allow God to bring something new, something better into your future. Pruning doesn't always feel good in the moment. It can feel painful and unsettling. But if you trust the process, if you trust that God knows what He's doing, you'll find that the pruning is just a step on your journey towards something greater. It's a preparation for the blessings and opportunities that are on their way. The things that are being removed may have been good at one point, but they are not what you need for where God is taking you. He is clearing the way for your future. You may not always understand why things are happening the way they are. You may not see the purpose behind the challenges and losses you're experiencing. But trust that God is working behind the scenes, preparing you for what's next. He is pruning you, not to hurt you, but to make you stronger, to make you more capable, to make you more prepared for the life He has in store for you. The pruning may seem like a setback, but in reality, it's a setup for a greater comeback. So the next time you find yourself going through a difficult season, remember that you are not being punished. You are being pruned. And the pruning is a sign that God is getting you ready for the next level, for the next chapter of your life. Embrace the process, trust the journey, and know that what you're going through right now is just a part of God's plan to make you the person you were always meant to be. When you embrace the silence, when you allow it to carry its own power, and when you trust that the pruning is preparing you for something better, you will find a peace that surpasses understanding. You will find strength in the quiet moments, and you will emerge from the pruning process stronger, wiser, and more equipped for the future that God has for you. So today, walk with that quiet confidence. Walk with that wisdom. Don't feel pressured to be an open book for every person you meet. Protect your peace. Guard your promise. And remember, you don't have to tell everything you know, show everything you have, or explain everything you're planning. Trust the God who sees you in secret to reward you openly.